The hour has come. You're all here, and we're all here. Do we have a quorum for this morning's meeting? And we have 9 commissioners here, I believe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We have 8.
We have
We've
Dr.
not-
Cook.
Oh, 9. I'm sorry. Morning, Doctor.
Morning.
Welcome, everyone, to the last meeting of the calendar year 2017. It's been an interesting year. This is meeting number 471. And let's see what we've got to do here. We've done our introductions, roll call, minutes of the previous meeting, approval of the minutes of the previous. Actually, we have 2 months, November 17 and October 17. Let's deal with October 2017 first. Meeting minutes approval. Do I have a motion for?
Motion.
Motion made.
Second.
Seconded. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Hearing none. Passed. Approval of the meeting minutes of the November 2017 meeting. Any discussion on those?
Yes, I would like to have added the regarding Resolution 2017-69, the 2 amendments to that resolution, and the factual data and discussion regarding that resolution.
Okay. Any discussion? Any further discussion?
Approve?
Motion to approve?
Second.
Second? All in favor?
Abstained because I wasn't here at the. Oh, wait a minute, we're approving that. I'm sorry. But I think I should abstain because I wasn't,
When in 30 seconds you can.
sorry.
All in favor? With an aye. Any decline? With a nay? Any abstentions? 1 abstention? See how smoothly that works?
You're the best. You're the best.
But if you hadn't said something, I wouldn't have asked, So, carried. Item 2, fiscal actions report and expenditures. Hoping that we've all reviewed that report. Any action on it? Any discussion?
Move to approve.
Motion? Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Project review actions report. Ms. Gallagher.
That would be you.
Joe's going to read it. 2017-71.
71. Acceptance of the project review actions report. Whereas the commission has received and reviewed the project review actions report prepared by the staff dated December 5th, 2017. And whereas the project review committee recommends acceptance of the project review actions report, now therefore be resolved that the commission directs the project review actions report be incorporated in the minutes of the full commission meeting. So moved.
Second. Motion made, motion seconded. All in favor? Aye. Any nays? Any abstentions? Carried. Class A marina application submitted by Harold Holliday. Normal circumstance, we'd have a staff introduction. This morning, I don't think we need to do that. The process this morning, as many of you are aware, that this has been a long winding road on this particular application. The application for Marina First Class, A-Class, whatever, was declined at the May meeting. Subsequently, there was a, what's the full legal title of the hearing?
An adjudicatory
An
hearing.
adjudicatory hearing held, and that decision was rendered by the hearing officer. And last month's meeting, there were some comments made. However, it's been determined by the procedures of the Lake George Park Commission that once the adjudicatory hearing officer issues the report, that is the end of the hearing process. Now, the comments that were made for or against as of last November should be disregarded. There will be no comments this morning from the floor. There will be discussion from the commissioners if any of the commissioners need to make a comment. and there will be a vote, up or down. The only thing that would change that would be if the applicant again wanted to table it, and there would be no real reason in my mind to make that application to table. So as much as some of you come and some of you would like to be heard again, the Park Commission works awful hard at obeying the law. And our rules are that once the hearing is over, if you weren't at the hearing, if you're not on the record from there, that was the process. So, having said that, is there anybody on the commission that needs to have any additional information before they come to a conclusion? All right, do we have a motion?
Yes. Resolution 2017-72. Applicant number is 5234-3-17M1. Applicant is Harold Holliday. Whereas the applicant has applied for a Class A marina permit to construct a building and offer indoor winter storage for 5 vessels. And whereas the Lake George Park Commission has reviewed the application, supporting documents, comments received, and other information which appears in the record. And whereas the Commission has made a determination that the project is an unlisted action pursuant to the State Environmental Quality Review Act, 6 NYCRR 617.5, and as lead agency for the purposes of the State Environmental Quality Review Act, has made a determination that the project will have no significant impact on the environment. And whereas the action is considered to be a major project pursuant to 6 NYCRR 645-5.3, and public notice has been published and distributed as required. And whereas the applicant has demonstrated that the facility complies with the Class A marina requirements of 6 NYCRR 646-1.2. And whereas the Commission finds that the project will have no adverse impact on the health, safety, or welfare of the public, the environment, or the resources of the park, will not alter the essential characters of the area in which it is proposed, will not lead to congestion in the park, and will not have an undue visual, cultural, audible impact on the neighborhood or the park. Now therefore be resolved, the Lake George Park Commission hereby resolves to approve the above application as proposed.
Motion's made.
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? Any issues that any commissioners want to bring up? And my advice to you folks out there, if you need more information, you really need to avail yourself of reading the very public document that the hearing officer did produce as a result of this, if you need some details concerning what the process was and what the corresponding documentation that folks presented. We're going to come to a vote. Mr. Mason, you can go first. You're voting yes to approve?
Yep. Yes.
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 You gonna skip
Can you skip Kathy?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well,
She's not abstaining this time.
She's
No,
the
I'm
only
not
person here
abstaining
shorter
here.
than I am.
no. I'm going to reluctantly vote yes because through the hearing process, the applicant did provide everything required for the Class A Marina project. And I don't like it, but I'm going to vote yes.
Doctor?
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Just so it's not unanimous, and for other reasons, I'm going to vote no. But by count, it is carried and is passed. And that finishes that project for now. Thank you. Moving on. Variance request for application to modify moorings submitted by Shore Colony Association, Town of Queensbury, Warren County. Molly, do we have some information on that?
Yes, Shore Colony Association has asked for a variance from the offshore distance for 3 moorings, and the applicants are here to represent their application.
Good morning. My name is Ron Sedgwick. I'm president of Shore Colony Association. I'm accompanied by Dave Wilcox, the treasurer of the association. Shore Colony is applying for a variance to relocate the moorings that are sitting in Harris Bay along the shared waterfront on Assembly Point. Decades ago, the moorings were inaccurately placed in the bay relative to their permitted location. The commission brought this issue to our attention. To correct the situation, the officers have experimented with a number of different locations in the bay. We included a number of ventures into the waters with kayaks and cape ventures and such to try to best work on our application. The originally permitted location doesn't really work because of safety reasons. Accordingly, we feel that a variance would be needed. We considered a number of factors in trying to determine the minimum variance required. Amongst the considerations were safety of navigation both to and from Shore Colony, safety for other water uses in the area, general navigation safety. We also we received comments and observations from the public as well as from the commission. Some of the underlying principles that we considered in our application was we felt that it was important that, this is based on the experimentation that we did, that we have a minimum distance between the docks that are along the shore and the swing of the boat. We thought we needed at least 3 boat lengths for safety reasons. And also the south mooring, we felt we needed a little bit of additional distance because of other water uses in that area, such as skiing, kayaking, and swimming. Accordingly, we submit our plan, which relocates 2 of the moorings closer to the shore. In addition, we're seeking to correct an infringement of the sign, the sideline setback rule. We'll try to get that. We want to get that in compliance. So we request your approval of our permit as submitted, as well as the variants that are included in the application. And we'd be happy to try to answer questions that you may have. And we thank the commission for its time and attention to this matter.
Thank you. Anybody else here to speak on this project? Any commissioners have any questions of the applicant? Or of anybody? George,
We'll talk about relocation and that sort of thing. Well, we know where the 100-foot mark was. We know where they want to put it.
Yes.
There was some negotiation, I'm told. Do you have a recommendation
Well,
from
I
staff?
wasn't at the site inspection. Maybe Dave or Joe wants to talk.
I think we can kind of jump in maybe a little bit. Yeah, so the applicant is proposing to keep it similar to where it is right now. We took a look at the site, and we're looking at the balance between boats being able to get out of the docks and where the mooring balls might be and the swing on those mooring balls. So it's kind of a balancing act. Anything over 100 feet out of the swing itself requires a variance. So taking a look, talking with our lieutenant, talking with staff, talking with the commissioners that went to the site visit, it's an evaluation of is there enough room to get the boats out of the dock and keep the mooring balls in as close to shore as possible to try to minimize whatever variance necessary. So it's a commissioner's determination that should a variance be required to go have the swing out past that 100-foot mark, and if so, how far should that go? Is that clear?
Yeah, so we visited the site, we saw where the balls were. This was last month or so, 6 weeks ago, whatever it was. And I think at least some of us that were there were talking about placing the mooring balls at 100 feet. So it's kind of a compromise. You still have the swing of the vessel going out past 100 feet, but at least it gives them enough room to move in and out of the docks. So that was what we discussed when we were at the site.
I was also at the site, and I had the benefit of, I have 4 sailboat moorings that I manage at the Cunderwide every year, and I understand the issues on being farther out away from the dock. It's a rare occurrence when the wind causes a boat to swing directly in towards shore in this location. That would take an easterly wind. It doesn't happen that often, but when it does, with the angle from the anchor up to the mooring buoy, they don't float directly above the anchor. They need to float at quite an angle. The more the angle, the better it is. Any of you who have a sailboat know you want more angle, not less angle, for the strong winds. I don't have a problem with the application that they're asking for. I don't mind some kind of a compromise, I understand that, but I do appreciate what they're trying to do. It makes sense to me.
The sailing term is scope, I believe.
Excuse me?
Scope.
Scope, yes. Scope.
The anchor line, the anchoring of the boat.
Very good,
Scope.
thank you. I don't know the name for it.
Well,
I just put the anchors at the bottom and put the moorings at the top.
Your
but-
membership on the park commission is always a learning
Thank you.
curve.
And the scope of your discussion is
It took me a
very
second to
interesting as
remember
well.
what you were talking about.
I prefer Listerine.
Ken,
Never mind.
Your name, you got?
Any other,
how big is
any other nautical terms we need to review here?
They're not sailboats, some of them aren't.
Do we have a,
I'd like to make a
I'm sorry?
Again, I don't have a problem with the location of the buoys, and I'm of the understanding that DEC issued permits for this back in '91. Is that true? All right. Was that a mooring permit, or was it
Floating object.
floating object under navigational law? Okay, so that's going to have to be amended
Yes.
as well under navigational law with DEC. Okay.
Yeah.
We have submitted an application.
You submitted to one of my staff members, so that has yet to be done, but again, based on the approval of this commission, it'll be done concurrently and consistently with the decision here. Okay.
Everybody else all set? Joe, do we have a resolution?
Sure. Resolution 2017-73, application number 5234-52-17. Applicant is Shore Colony Association. Whereas the applicant has applied for permit to modify the locations of the 3 moorings, and the Lake George Park Commission has reviewed the application supporting documents, comments received, and other information which appears in the record, and the commission has made a determination pursuant to 6 NYCRR 645-3.6 and the State Environmental Quality Review Act of 6 NYCRR 617.5 that the project is a Type 2 action and does not require further review of potential environmental impacts pursuant to this act. Whereas the action is considered to be a minor project pursuant to 6 NYCRR 645-5.3, public notice has been published and distributed. Whereas the applicant has requested a variance from 6 NYCRR 646-1.1C. Number 2, no dock or wharf shall be constructed so as to exceed the following offshore distance criteria. Number 3, no dock or wharf or mooring shall be constructed or placed so as to extend offshore more than 100 feet from the mean high water mark. Number 12, moorings shall not be placed so that the full swing of the vessel extends more than 100 feet offshore from the mean high water mark. Whereas the applicant has demonstrated strict conformance with the regulations will cause unnecessary hardship due to unique, peculiar circumstances which impose substantial financial, technical, and safety burdens. And whereas the commission finds that there is no reasonable possibility that the applicant's property will bring a reasonable return following conformance with the regulations, and whereas the commission finds the project represents the minimum necessary variance required to alleviate the hardship, and the commission finds that the project will have no adverse impact on the health, safety, or welfare of the public, the environment, or the resources of the park, will not alter the essential characters of the area in which it is proposed, will not lead to congestion in the park, will not have an undue visual, cultural, audible impact in the neighborhood or the park. Now therefore be resolved, the Park Commission hereby approves the above application with the modification that the mooring balls don't exceed more than 100 feet from the high water mark. So,
Motion made, motion seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Any nays? Any abstentions? It is carried. Good luck. Okay, moving on. We'll be out of here for breakfast. Lake George Park Commission stormwater updates. Mr. Wick.
Yeah, you're the chair of our committee. You want to start it out, or? You want me
Yeah,
to-
sure. The Park Commission had decided to upgrade its stormwater regs. Had been a number of years since,
About 20 years.
20 years they've been touched. And actually, if you take the regs in their total overview, they are going to be a little more relaxed than they were before. We're not attempting, we are applying some basis of science on the regs. We all do know that water runs downhill, it's the law, but what is the necessary number of feet required to protect a stream bed, any other vehicle of water, from stormwater? We are attempting to do this with the help and guidance of our partners and stakeholders, and they include all the municipalities, the county, the 3 counties, and the towns and villages that surround the lake. Some of us have been visiting the town boards, town planning boards, village board, and making our presentation and asking for their input and their comments, and we're almost completed with that. We're reaching out to other stakeholders, planning folks, the logging industry, anybody who has any interest in stormwater and an interest in what the reason that we're here all the time, Lake George. That we're moving along.
So one of the most important impact of Lake George is stormwater runoff. That's been defined again and again and again in the studies, and the Commission has stormwater regulations on the books solely to provide a betterment to the quality of stormwater going into Lake George. It's done in combination with what's happening out there in the communities, right? So the communities have put in over $10 million in stormwater upgrades, both on state roads, county roads, town roads. So we had the new big Beach Road stormwater project. That was an overall $6 million project. The entire Westbrook stormwater project, its sole purpose was to clean up the stormwater coming off of Route 9, and these things are happening throughout the basin. So we're trying to find that balance between doing public works projects to improve the quality of stormwater coming off of public areas, and also in combination with the stormwater that's coming off of private properties. So what we're looking at for the stormwater regulations is when people do improvements, betterments to their property that require the oversight of the park commissioner or those delegated towns to get a permit for that, we're trying to make those properties stormwater neutral. If Lieutenant Johns has a house on his property, the ultimate goal of the regulations has always been, let's have that site be of the same condition after development as before development. And that way we can kind of minimize the amount of impacts to Lake George. So these upgrades are intended to try to move in that direction. Are they everything that is going to be the end-all for stormwater? Are we eliminating development in the basin? Absolutely not. So we're working with everybody out there over the next year to say, here's the ideas, what do we think? We've met with 8 towns so far. We have a few to go. And we're also meeting with foresters, loggers like Ken notes, engineers. We're going to be meeting with the Chamber of Commerce soon enough, with private property owners, business interests, DEC. We had a meeting with Mark recently and his staff. So the whole idea right now is to come up with something that makes sense, that's supported publicly, certainly by the municipalities that are working with us to get these things done, and ultimately provide a betterment for what we have for stormwater running into Lake George. So that's kind of a long-winded where we are. Lastly is the process. We expect to have all of our focus groups meetings done in the next few months. And at that point, Joe is our stormwater guy. He's been the one really putting the language to the ideas that you guys are putting together. And that is going to go out as a draft package to everybody. And then we're going to have at least 2 public hearings to have public feedback on this. We're going to start the regulatory process sometime in late spring, early summer. That will go through the fall. And at that point, you guys will decide what you want in the final set of regulations, and that moves forward. And so we hope we can put something in place. So, thank you.
Interesting to note that when Dave and Joe put all the numbers together, right out of the box, we got involved with a contractor out of town of Bolton, and upon his input, we made our first major change to the regs before we even started running down the road with him, because what he said was accurate, and so we made the adjustment in ours. One of the interesting facts that I thought we learned at a recent meeting with Dan Dickinson and the town of Lake George has to do with the $1 Million Beach and the problems they had all summer long. Well, the short crux of the story is that it was discovered, the town was videotaping the sewer mains and whatnot, and they found out that a natural gas contractor drilling under 9L had actually drilled right through a major line. One side, right out the other side, and there it was. So is that the mystery of the $1 Million Beach problem? I certainly don't know, and I don't know if they know for sure. But that's how those things should happen. I mean, this is all new stuff, but yet. And they asked the company how they could do it, and they explained how they did it, which didn't take into consideration the facts of the slope of that line. So interesting what you find out when you get involved in all of this and where it goes. So, anybody else have any comments about our work and our out there?
The rest of our committee is Bill Mason, Kathy, and Joe Stanix, and Dean showed up at the town of time meeting. It was very helpful.
It
So,
was a good meeting.
Yep.
Good.
We had
We're working our way
the town
around.
board there and the zoning board, and there were some good questions.
Yep.
And nobody's not interested, and including the logging profession, which a couple times we've heard, well, gee, what can we do to help the loggers? Well, the loggers are a unique group, and one of the outputs of this is going to be for instance, the logging industry, not to pick on them, but to congratulate them. We're trying to make it a one-stop shop. As of today, the way it's regulated, they may have to go to a couple different stops to find out whether it's appropriate and what to do and whatnot. And when and if this is passed, and we expect that it will, they'll be coming to the Park Commission, and we're not going to be issuing permits, and it's more like an authority for them to log a certain thing. We'll have the ability to go examine and make sure that they not only did what they're supposed to, but did what they promised, and et cetera, and give them counsel on stream crossings and road access and headers, and which would decrease the amount of runoff coming off logging that we've all seen along the side roads. So, I guess that's that. And we'll move on to Law Enforcement Committee report, which the Law Enforcement Committee did meet this morning at 9 a.m. And before we went into executive session, we talked about our upcoming plan for providing the ability for our Marine Patrol to be carry armed weapons. My central theme is you ain't in Kansas anymore. And if you read the new Marine report, which has just been published and is now available to everybody, and pay particular attention to the last number of pages, which describes very quickly the different applications our Marine Patrol goes through and the processes and the challenges that they get by being out on this lake during the day, being out on this lake during the night, and with the people / the public, that's us folks, things that they have to deal with. And that's not really us that's causing these problems. And the safety of our Marine Patrol officers and of the users of the lake is of utmost. And what we're going to accomplish is going to push that along. Our next agenda that we're going to talk about as we move forward with the Marine Patrol is providing more manpower, i.e., there should never be a boat out on Lake George or any lake such as Lake George with one single officer on it. This is a two-man job. The Sheriff's Department, the New York State Police, DEC, they don't allow boats out with one patrol officer. And we shouldn't either. It's a manpower / budget issue, and those are the kind of goals that we're working on to change that, improve it, and thus improve the safety of the people that use Lake George and deserve to use it. We did have an executive session for a moment and discussed some enforcement cases, and other than that, do we have a resolution?
Yep, Resolution 2017-74. Whereas the Law Enforcement Committee met December 19, 2017 to review matters pertaining to the Lake George Park Commission's Marine Patrol and the Commission's law enforcement program, and whereas the active law enforcement cases and their status were reviewed in executive session, and whereas the Law Enforcement Committee has reported on the results of that committee meeting at this full commission meeting, and the Law Enforcement Committee recommends acceptance of this month's law enforcement report. Now therefore be resolved that the Commission accepts the report of the Law Enforcement Committee. So moved.
Second. Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Any abstentions? Carried. Public comments. Anyone here would like to make any comments? On the record. Yes, sir.
A comment may be premature. I know you're going to be taking comment later on in the process for stormwater regulations.
If you'd like to step right to the mic and identify yourself for the record. And
My name is John Carter. I've been sort of following the stormwater process for many years now, and I speak on behalf of a lot of different people in the community that seem to seek me out to comment. Just listening to the demeanor of the board at today's meeting, it sounds like it's already a done deal, and I would caution this board to seriously consider the development process that any developer, homeowner goes through. It's not just your, there's isolation distances for the Department of Health, Park Commission, roadways, towns. I mean, when we start drawing circles on maps of isolation distances to protect everything, you end up with nothing left. And I think, we need to make sure the terminology that this board uses when we talk about stormwater within 35 feet of a stream. Are we talking stormwater or are we talking rainwater? Stormwater coming off of a driveway is handled through the current regulations. Mother Nature delivering water to a 10-foot area from a stream, it's Mother Nature. And I think I'd be very cautious there as we march down this road. Everyone's not singing kumbaya on this in the community at this point. I would be very careful of it. I would also caution the board to make sure that our priorities, to be honest, any property that I have that has a road on it has streams on it that have salt water going directly into it. And I pointed these out to members of this board and members of the community. Nothing's been done in 20 years. Massive areas of Route 9, massive areas of the interstate. And the attitude is, that's DOT. Well, you know what? Let's really put an effort into that, because within sight of all of these, I can see the lake. I can look right down the street and see the lake. And the attitude is, it's DOT. 5% of the land that's remaining in the basin is eligible for development. Of that 5%, less than 1% of it has a stream on it. We're talking about 1%. And a lot of resources at this committee. I'd make sure invasive species, roadways, let's keep an eye on our priorities as we move through this process. And hopefully at the end, we end up with a great product that doesn't end up where it was before, where there's just a lot of animosity and bad will within the community. And I do value Lake George, and I do believe it needs to be protected. But before we all, run down the street with the Pied Piper, let's look at our priorities and make sure we're addressing it, in a very accurate way. So just my comments now, and I'll follow up with comments throughout the process.
accept my apology if you thought that I was laying too little on it. And I expect to hear your testimony at both of the public hearings, or at least one of them,
I think
for the record.
needs to actually see the regulations in full, and I'm assuming they're out there somewhere, and that process will be.
We welcome your comments.
Yes.
At any time.
Thank you, sir.
Chairman?
Yes.
I think, Dave, we should comment to make the record straight about the DOT's efforts, and both at the interstate and also at Westbrook. Dave, could you just give us a brief rundown of all the work that's been done in that area that controls stormwater and purify it?
Yeah, so DOT, I think 10 years ago, John would probably agree, wasn't an active player in protecting Lake George. And over the last several years, they've put well over $1 million into Route 9 for stormwater upgrades, and they are actually leading the charge in their own internal bubble world on brining to try to reduce the amount of road salt that's going down on the road surfaces. So just last week, I think it was last Thursday, the CFAs, the Consolidated Funding Grants, came out, where the village is the recipient of a $200,000 grant to do a little bit better with assisting local highway departments on switching from traditional road salt over to salt brine. That's a project that's been worked on by everybody that's involved, the municipalities, the nonprofits, the Park Commission, certainly the leadership in the towns. So that's a great start. We've been the beneficiary of a $150,000 grant from Senator Little. That's a 100% grant that got the town started. So we just took delivery of 5 new brine spreader units that are being used, 2 in Bolton, one in the village, one in the town of Lake George, one in Queensbury, to kind of pilot the effort to say, hey, we've been spreading X amount of tons of rock salt every year. Let's try this out. Let's see if it works, see if it makes sense. And if so, we can use this new grant to expand on those programs and see how it works. So I was following Dave Harrington. We're following his brand new brine spreader to see how it works. And they have some ideas on how to tweak it and make it better. But people like Tom Van Ness, the highway super for the town of Queensbury, said, listen, Dave, if this works, I don't need to be involved in your regional brine effort. I'll do it myself. And that's great. And that's the model that we're kind of following. We went out to New Hartford, which is out by Utica. And this guy, he was an old Thruway Authority guy, he got elected as the local highway super, switched the entire operation over to brine, cut his salt consumption by 50%, and the money that he saves on that, plus selling brine to his neighboring municipalities, has turned his shop into a showroom. It is all stainless steel trucks. He's got 8 stainless steel trucks, new brine tanks. It's completely automated, and that's where we'd like to go. So here's one guy that was able to affect that change. So the idea of salt and roads, we've been pretty clear, I think, at the commission level. That is one of our top priorities, and we're taking an active role in that, as is Chris Novitsky, as is Walt Linder, as is the mayor yesterday. He was on YNN talking about it. So I think we're doing much better in the past than we have. We have a long way to go. But with the new $200,000 grant that came in, plus the Senate a little money, I think this is enough seed money to really start to change the game and where we are for salt. So I think it's a little bit better, John, than what we were thinking had been the case with DOT, because they have been brining the Northway and Route 9 for the last 2 years now, and I haven't been able to talk to the resident engineer because Rob Pitch left. But I think they're on the same track as well. So hopefully, we're looking at a 10 or 20 year effort, but I think we're going to be doing much better in the long run. So hopefully that answers some of your concerns.
We also had Westbrook, which dealt with the stormwater coming off of the Route 9 and off exit 21. So that was a significant effort to, clean up the water.
It's interesting. Every new solution creates a related problem. And after they've brined the road, the Thruway or the Northway as an example, and it dries, you now have a cloud storm, and you'll learn what that little button on the dash that has the car shaped on it with where the air comes from. But I had the misfortune of having to go to Albany shopping the other day and experience that, and I really had to push it because it was getting dark out there on the Northway where they had done it hours before and it dried.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of that might have actually been a residual from pre-applications of rock salt.
Right.
So you see that because they pulverize the rock salt and turns into what the brine actually does. It kind of gets in between the various grains. So you apply the brine, it's a 23% salt solution in water, and you apply that actually in advance, and then that dries to the road. So the amount of residual on the road is minuscule compared to a pre-application of rock salt.
That's probably what it was.
More often what you see is when they're running down the Northway and you see the bounce and scatter of that residual is there, then you hit it with the tires and it cracks and breaks up. So that's more often, I think, Ken, what you see. We're trying to make that actually, this is going to be a betterment to that effort.
See how we educate here. Any other public comments? And this is like the director stretching the meeting out. We're going to set a record. And we're now going to entertain a motion to adjourn. All in favor, and we're done. Thank you, everybody. I would say that thanks for the support for 2017, and we'll see you next year.
I thought it was very good. Yeah, I think that people that are interested. Is that what I mean?
Thank you.
Hi.
I think where we're going.
All right, so.
All right, who are you?
Oh, sorry. I'm Kathleen Moore from the Post Star.
I'm Ken Parker.
We met at the last